Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Switch Statement Podcast. It's a podcast for investigations into miscellaneous tech topics.
This is our 22nd episode of Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. We'd love to hear from you. Send your comments and feedback to team@thkp.co.
Hey, John. How are you doing?
Hey, Matt. I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm just swerving. I'm taking a step back at my life. Swerving left, swerving right.
You've had a lot of interesting pivots. I have a lot of respect for people who can kind of like make big pivots.
Commit to anything.
That's maybe the negative way of looking at it. But like I have a friend, for instance, who was working at Google and then she like decided she wanted to be a nurse and just went to UPenn and became a nurse. And it's like, it's just a really impressive like life pivot. And, she's now a successful nurse and it's kind of cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what are we doing here?
We're closing the book.
All about?
Closing the
book
we were
on
done.
Elon. I thought we were done with Elon Musk.
I was hoping we were done with Elon Musk, but we usually, this is our tradition. We finish a book.
Our
and then
slavish commitment to the formula demands.
Which, if you know us at all, we always adhere to traditions. We never
always adhere. I want a big poster that just says "always adhere."
It sounds very Orwellian. Like I feel. Like maybe we should re-examine ourselves. But in any case, there's some questions that we usually ask each other. I don't know if we need to adhere exactly to that. I actually had a question about this book that I wanted to ask you.
Kidding? We have to adhere. Let me pull up the questions because I think we've got them written down somewhere.
Let me.
Did you have? Yeah, start with your questions.
Yeah, I'm going to break from tradition. I'm going to be the first to not adhere. I want to ask you a question about Elon Musk, which is, so Elon Musk is clearly a person who makes things happen. Like
True.
You can hate Elon Musk, and I do, but you have to admit that he has done huge things, just astounding things. And part of it is that he's a horrible person and he manipulates people and, maybe he's really good at getting people to viciously compete with one another and get really good results. But, he's also he sort of understands the direction he wants to take things and he's very focused on those goals and those visions. Mm-hmm. But my question to you is, do you think the world needs people like Elon Musk?
Oh my God, dude, that's a big question. Because I think you could take this question a billion different places. And honestly, my brain jumps back to like I would answer that in the form of a question, which would be like, did the world need to develop agriculture? Like, did humanity as a culture need to develop agriculture? Like, I think that those questions are actually kind of aligned.
Can you imagine if we were all just hanging out in equatorial, regions, eating mangoes on the beach? Man.
I've heard, and I think my citation is to John Green's, I don't know if you Crash Course World History. I don't know if you've ever
I have
watched that. He said that there was actually more leisure time when we were hunter-gatherers.
Yeah, exactly. You find a grove of, berries and you're like, let's chill here for a couple days. You just eat a bunch of berries.
And there is this very paradoxical relationship with technological progress and the enjoyment of human lives. Like the Industrial Revolution being kind of maybe the starkest, where it's like, oh, we've made all these technological advancements. Now you get to work in this super hot, grimy factory for 16 hours a day. Isn't that great? Yeah. Everybody's thriving.
Externalities. It's capitalism at its best.
But because I think what's wrapped up in need is what your value system is about like, how are you evaluating whether or not humanity as a whole is successful? I mean, I think it really does boil down to, like, are you able to achieve ambitious things? I mean, that's how I think about it. Mm-hmm. And then if you're looking at it through that lens, I would argue, like, yes, like, absolutely, you need people like Elon Musk who are able to look at the current state of the world, like the space launch industry, and be like, this is insane. The way that any of this is working. Like, this is so dumb the way this whole system works, and I just need to spend 20 years actually proving that out. And I mean, obviously, it didn't take him 20 years to prove that, but yeah. So like through my subjective experience, like, yes, I mean, need like its own thing, but I think the world is better off if you have people like Elon Musk. Now, like, if you could give me the option to, like, cut off some of the more acerbic parts of him, like, I would. But
but we discussed this in the last chapter. Yeah. You can't remove those threads because you unravel the whole fabric
without unraveling. Yeah. So, but I hold out hope. I hold out hope that you can have someone who's, you know, maybe there's a certain measure of, like, assholeness that you need, but. Anyway, but how about you? Like, does the world need Elon Musk?
I don't think so at all. I actually think, well, and I'm also hopeful that less and less we will need this sort of demagogish figures that sort of manipulate vast hordes of people into doing their bidding. You know, this is a human thing. Like, humans are very hierarchical, and we want to sort of follow people, and we want to have these leaders that we idolize, and, you know, influencers and blah, blah, blah. Like, this is very ingrained in human psyche. And that's part of the reason I think someone like Elon Musk comes about. I mean, just look at how Elon was worshipped in, you know, maybe the mid 2010s. Like, I feel like he was looked at as like a Iron Man figure for a long time. And if you really think about it, like, that's insane. Like, he's just some guy. But anyway, I think that what Elon does, what is impressive to me, is how he can bring together the most talented people on the planet, and he can get them all to focus on these really important problems. And I think that's his main skill. Like, himself, he is talented, and he does have... You know, he's strong technically. He has a good instinct. I think he has a good intuition about, like, you know, let's just use stainless steel or whatever. Like, he has these weird intuitions that are actually, like, strangely good. And I'm sure it's because he has some technical, you know, background. But I think that's really his main skill, bringing people together and getting them to truly, truly focus on, like, a mission. And to me, that does not require someone like Elon Musk. It often, like, in modern society, it often happens because of someone like Elon Musk, just because of the system we live in. But I don't think it requires someone like Elon Musk. And I think I would prefer a world where very smart people came together and cooperated on very difficult problems for, you know, not because of someone like Elon Musk, more just because these are sort of identified as important problems, and we have a system that motivates very smart people to work on those problems. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a cop-out answer, because I'm almost imagining this world, this society that doesn't exist today, and saying, oh, in that society, we don't need Elon Musk. But I actually think we're hopefully moving in that direction. Like, I actually think AI could be the type of thing that leads groups of people and coordinates smart people and gives them missions and gives them clear things to work on.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think Elon Musk's kind of clear-eyed vision of the future, even if that vision is rapidly changing, you know, that he, at least for however long that vision exists, I mean, he thinks super long term. So it's not, I don't want to say, like, he is completely changing his ideas all the time. But like, I think Twitter is a perfect example where it's like, oh, like this should be this common, like this, I guess, public space for discussion. And then like 2 minutes later, after he's already locked himself into this deal, he's like, wait a minute, I actually don't want this. Like, so that's a kind of a good example of him waffling a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think also there's an element of risk tolerance. Like so many people, their tolerance for risk is very low, and organizations too. Like,
Or they're just not motivated by what that risk earns.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's rooted in a loss aversion where it's like, NASA is like, well, we can't possibly tolerate like a launch ever going less than perfectly, essentially.
Right.
And
right.
that risk aversion actually causes them to achieve less.
Yeah.
And so I think that is another piece of the magic recipe that Elon has.
I think
and
you're
also
absolutely right about that. Yeah. He's
and
a risk
just
taker.
like go for it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's just built into his psyche. Like he almost seems he craves instability.
Yes.
And yeah, so I think you're right.
I think that's 100% true. It's almost like if he gets uneasy if he's not in some precarious situation, he's like, wait a minute, like something's wrong. Like this, I'm not daring greatly enough because everything seems to be nothing's on fire right now.
Yeah, it's like Hurt Locker.
Yeah, I have not seen that movie, but
that was kind of the theme. He like came back from war, and life was too pedestrian.
Yeah, I could see it. But anyway, so the other thing that I was going to say about Elon is like just his incredibly aggressive policy of like setting essentially completely unrealistic deadlines. And I think that's also, that's kind of an orthogonal concern, but like it's also important to like being able to achieve as much as you possibly can. Because I've just worked on so many teams, and I have constantly been this source of delay where it's like I'm just kind of like waiting for the right time, or like I set my deadlines like super spaciously so that like I know I can deliver on them, and like it just pushes everything out because anything downstream of that now is like, okay, well, I'm certainly not going to deliver it before the stated deadline. So yeah, those are I think two additional, in addition to his kind of like very like clear-eyed and ability to like get really smart people. I think those also help.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think he has that strange alchemy of like leadership traits that does make him super effective. But I still think those things could be, you could have some sort of entity that has those things. In fact, and I don't want to totally derail this conversation, but I think
was there a rail?
That's a good point. I think a lot about leadership in general, because I have worked on software teams all my life, and I've never really been a leader on a software team. I mean, I guess at certain points in my career, I was referred to as a lead in an organization, but I wasn't like leading a ton of like, young engineers or whatever. So it's something I've thought about a lot because I'm either a victim of bad leadership or I'm a beneficiary of good leadership. And I do think leadership is this strange alchemy of like knowing how to motivate individuals, understanding what the goals are, understanding how to like, sort of like this harsh deadline thing, like understanding when tools like that are effective with your people versus just like demoralizing and, counter incentivizing. Because obviously if you laid on some ridiculous deadline like that, your people will just be like, nah, and just kind of like mutiny. But anyway, this is all to say that I don't necessarily think like I think an AI could view an organization at a high level and determine, based on each individual in that organization, like, okay, here's what this person should do based on their expertise. Here's how I should deliver that mission statement to that person based on, whether they want a burning deadline under them or whether they're more zen and whatever. And yeah, I think like leadership is one of those things that I think will slowly get replaced by AIs, or at least leaders themselves will sort of use AIs to like, because this is exactly what AIs are good at, is sort of like taking this tremendous amount of data, whole organization, missions, individual motivations, individual sort of desires and everything, and synthesizing that whole thing and then, providing a direction. And so I think, someone like Elon could be replaced by an AI.
I think you're right. I've thought about this a lot where it's like, and this is maybe a different use of the term, but inversion of control, like, and not in the like dependency injection context, but it's more like,
yeah, you might have to describe that one for the listener.
Or describe the initial
I don't know, just however you want to. Maybe if you were about to describe it, then that's fine.
Yeah, so the way I'm imagining this is like, so right now, today, AI, humans are giving tasks to AIs, and then if AIs are delegating to anyone, it's to other AIs. But like, you could imagine a world where you actually like flip that and you actually have an AI. I mean, at some point a human, ideally, at some point a human gave this AI a task, but then actually like you could imagine a human as being a worker of, with certain resources and like latency characteristics. And so like there's no reason the AI couldn't be like, okay, well, this task is the kind of thing that actually will be useful for a human to do. And then it will delegate a task to the human. And it's like, okay, well, it's okay if it takes a really long time because, compared to an LLM, because it's like, it's a hard task. So we'll have the human work on this for a week and come back and give me some deliverable.
I actually think it's a very powerful idea. Like you have these AIs, they're not motivated by money. They're purely motivated by mission. And they hire people, whatever, those people use AIs. But I don't know. To me, it seems like a better system because right now all these CEOs are motivated by money and prestige and girls or whatever they're motivated by. And so you have these, those motivations occasionally act in competition with one another and don't ultimately lead towards that person focusing on the mission. And at the end of the day, that's what you want, is 100% focus on the mission. And the other thing is, I think, and I feel like we've seen this with decentralized things like Bitcoin, for instance, where it's like Bitcoin, no one even knows who Satoshi Nakamura, wait, is that his name? Nakamoto? I don't know. Anyway, no one even knows who he is the point. Although I guess we do now know who he is. He's that like Peter Wells guy or
New York Times. Just I don't know. I don't remember who they figured, but they figured it out basically, or like they said on the Daily like with 99.9 or like 5%.
Although it's so funny because I was like reading a little bit of that and they're like it's because of hyphen usage, and I'm like, oh my god, like. First of all, that's just funny because of how AIs use hyphens, but it's also just funny because, like, how are you 99.9% sure that this guy is Satoshi based on hyphen usage? Like, that is the most ludicrous. But anyway,
it's an interesting question.
Yeah, my whole point, though, is that I feel like these more decentralized, mission-driven entities have been proven to work with humans, where you can get a massive group of people to get behind a mission, even if there's no like figurehead, human figurehead. Like it's purely just an idea that drives it. And I don't know, you could also argue that that's like basically how humans function. It's like the United States is an idea and we all hate Donald Trump, but we're still patriots. Like I still like, the idea of the United States. So Anyway, that was somewhat far afield, but
No,
this
I
is
think
part of
that's
the
a
reason.
really. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point. Like, this is one thing that I've thought about before with AIs is like they don't have a reputation that they really care about. Because otherwise, if they did have a reputation, like admonishing them or like fear of failure would, I don't know, it would have this long term impact. But like they don't, I don't know, they don't care really. I mean, at least in my experience. And
Yeah,
I think that
they're weirdly
yeah. Okay.
like, what is the opposite of toxic masculinity? Because AIs are like weirdly the opposite of toxic masculinity, where you can like denigrate
Yeah.
them and they just kind of turn the other cheek and they're like, oh yeah, well, here's some helpful tidbits.
Yeah, like pacifist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think you're right where AI will actually be able to shed a lot of baggage, psychological baggage that humans have around like wanting to have a legacy or wanting to, having personal ambition apart from the like because this is the problem. You have all these humans who they have an identity apart from the organization.
Exactly.
And their goals might not be perfectly aligned, but you could imagine coming up with, a Pepsi AI is fully aligned with Pepsi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Which I actually think would be a good thing. It's like, as long as we define our missions in a way that furthers humanity, then yeah, we just put AIs in charge of those missions. And just like you're saying, it's like they're George Washington. They sort of, without anyone asking them, they relinquish the throne. Like they have no ambitions. Their only ambition is to the mission, and that's a powerful notion.
Nice.
Anywho, that was a major derailment of the normal bookend plan. I don't know if we do want to quickly do some.
Well, let's quickly go through it. Yeah, do you want to start? Do we have a typical order?
I don't actually know what the questions are.
Okay, well, I have. Let me ping this to you so you can. But I think my guess is I generally should I ping you in chat or should I ping you in?
Ping me in chat, please.
Okay, yeah. All right.
All right. Let me ask you first. Who would get the most value out of this book?
I think as compared with most of our books, this one it's more like purely enjoyment. I'm not sure that there's going to be that much practical to take away from this book. Maybe some like things not to do, but it's also like, it's the lessons are so specific that I'm not sure that there's going to be like a lot of people out there who will be able to, take important lessons from Zip2, his first business where he like sold it for tens of millions of dollars over the course of like, he grew it to like multi-million-dollar company in 2 years or whatever. So I would say just your kind of average tech bro is going to get the most, like, just like, and purely for enjoyment purposes.
Yeah, it was a fun book. I enjoyed reading this. I almost want to say more than I enjoyed reading Gödel Escher-Bach. Gödel Escher-Bach was more enriching and gratifying, but harder to read. Like, it was a challenge and a chore sometimes.
Yeah, that was a gauntlet. Okay, so how much impact did this book have on you?
That's a good question. I mean, I want to say not very much. I mean, I'd already thought about Elon a lot. I'd already sort of come to my conclusion about him, and this didn't really change my mind. I will say, and actually this is maybe related to the first question too, but like, this is a good example of like, Elon is a person who has become a complete caricature in sort of the public perception of him. And he's not exactly that caricature. Like he does contain multitudes. And reading this book, he does have positive aspects, and he has a human side, and he has a sympathetic, a side that you can be sympathetic to. And so in that regard, I actually think this book helped me. It just helped remind me that, like, oh, all these public figures, like probably even Donald Trump, who is a person I absolutely loathe, probably even he has some sort of like human side that I should probably learn more about, because the fact of the matter is every person contains multitudes, and it's just important to remember that. But anyway, it didn't really impact me that much.
Didn't think this was going to wind up with a, kind of repairing Trump's aura.
I don't even know if that's possible. It's mainly just that, like, I just think it's important to not get too far into that, like, absolute hatred of individuals, because I don't know. It's first of all, there's no value in it. It's not going to get you anything. And it's also just often not really the full truth. But anyway, we don't have to go into detail on that. Did the author achieve his or her goals? Sorry.
His or her goals.
Butchered that.
Dude, I have a lot of respect for Walter Isaacson. I feel like he threaded the needle of, like, the vast majority of the time he was kind of this neutral arbiter of the truth, but it wasn't like dry and just like a vanilla recitation of factual information. So, like, I don't know. I think this was actually really well written. He had these little barbs where his, like, opinion showed through, and I think that actually, like, maybe counterintuitively, I think it improved the book, even though, like, maybe it took it back from the edge of being this, like, truly, completely agnostic.
Robert
but, like,
Caro,
I don't know. I think it made it better.
Yeah, I agree completely. I love Walter Isaacson. I've read one other book by him called Innovators, which was fantastic. I think he does a great job of, first of all, he captures what's interesting about, like, these weird sort of technical, like, this is a guy writing a computer program, and he, like, makes it sound like an adventure or whatever. But yeah, I love the, like, very, very tiny amount of, like, editorializing. I find that hilarious.
Yeah. Because, at the end of the day, it really does allow the reader to come to their own conclusions about, this incredibly complex character.
Yeah. Although I'd love to hear, I want to hear Walter Isaacson just go off. Like, I want to hear his totally unbridled, give him a couple whiskeys and just hear his, like, absolute unvarnished opinion on Elon.
All right. Well, Walter, if you're a listener, hit us up. team@thkp.co. Our inbox is open. All right. Last question. Rating on a scale of -1 to 1.
I mean, I really liked the book. I think as a, biography of Elon Musk, it was excellent. Like, just very well written, very fun to read. And yeah, we just talked about how Walter Isaacson's style, I think, lends itself really well to examining a person like Elon. I would rate it pretty highly. I would probably give it like a 0.75 to 0.85.
Okay. I would probably give it, I think, and it's funny because it's not that this book, that it's a problem with this book. Like, I'm not sure that it could be written, like, better, but this was more kind of on the, like, junk food. And I'm not saying it's devoid of like, value, but I feel like I have to ding it a little bit. Like, we go from Gödel Escher Bach, which is like this like extensive treatise on, like, self-reference, which is just like, and it feels like there's so much, like,
what did we rate Gödel
novel value. What's that?
What did we rate Gödel Bach? I feel like
I have no recollection.
okay, I'm probably doing a terrible job of like keeping my ratings consistent because I do think Gödel Bach is like by far a more important book.
So I kind of want to say this is definitely positive. I want to say this is more in the like 0.6 range. And everyone, it's important to note the scale goes negative. It's the -1. So 0.6 on a -1 to 1 scale.
Very good.
Still pretty good.
Yeah.
Still pretty good. So
Nice. Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. I think this book is much more. Yeah, it's just like a fun book about a guy. You know, it's not something you need to read to like make yourself a better human being or anything. It's just like a very interesting book.
Right. All right. Well, that's all I got. That's the last question I see here. So I
guess we're done.
We're obligated to end.
All right, Matt. Well, I'll see you next time.
See you next time with the new book. We don't know what it is, but it's going to be a good one.
We'll figure that out. All right, bye.
All right, bye.